The story is about a wealthy businessman named Kim Min Kyu, who suffers from a strange disease. Whenever he gets in physical contact with another human, he starts having terrible rashes on his body, followed by shortness of breathing. In extreme cases, he can even faint or die. Min Kyu's biggest wish is to have a girlfriend, but due to his illness, he can't approach women. And because of the same reason, he has isolated himself for 15 years in his house. His personal doctor, Dr. O, is his only confidant, who has tried several ways to find a cure, but to no avail. Hence, one day, he tells Min Kyu to accept his solitary life and hands him a smartwatch that uses colors to monitor his allergic condition. Blue is normal, yellow represents a mild reaction, orange means that Min Kyu's airways are closing, and red means that he will die in minutes, a severity that he's never experienced. One day, a genius scientist named Professor Hong contacts Min Kyu. He reveals that he, along with his team, has succeeded in developing a highly intelligent robot that is capable of helping Min Kyu with his house chores. And since she's not a human, she will not cause any harm to him. The cost for this robot is 100 billion won. Min Kyu feels like this is a scam, but out of curiosity, he goes to the lab to meet with Professor Hong. And as soon as he reaches there, he is welcomed by a robot that looks exactly like a beautiful woman. She introduces herself as Agi-3, a highly advanced AI robot created by Professor Hong. Min Kyu is stunned by her appearance, and when he touches her, there is no abnormal change in him. Excited by this new discovery, he immediately expresses his desire to buy Agi-3 and even invest funds in the project. But first, he wants to test the robot tomorrow. Unfortunately, that night at the lab, disaster strikes. One of Professor Hong's team members clumsily spills a droplet of soda in Agi-3's core processor, causing it to have a short circuit. The professor and the rest of the team are devastated, as it may take several days to repair the robot. And since their deal can be cancelled if Agi-3 is not delivered to Min Kyu the following day, Professor Wang is forced to think of a new plan. He remembers his ex-girlfriend, Jia, who is revealed to be the prototype of the robot Agi-3. Since Wang built the robot exactly like her, he goes to meet her. Both of them have an awkward reunion, and realizing that Jia is experiencing financial difficulty, he offers her a salary of 10 million won if she agrees to disguise herself as Agi-3 for one day. Jia doesn't want to do a favor for her ex, but since she is in dire need of money, she agrees to the offer. Following this, Professor Wang takes Jia to his lab and shows her the robot. Then, all the scientists team up and help her disguise like Agi-3. They fit an armor in her body, put a new wig on her head, and even give her contact lenses. These lenses will actually function as cameras, which will help the professor and his team monitor everything via the real Agi-3 robot. They can also send instructions, which Jia will receive from her lens in the form of text or videos. The next day, Jia is sent to Min Kyu's house as scheduled. But when he opens the box, she jumps back in surprise. It turns out that she has met him previously when she worked as a food delivery girl. The experience was very bad as Min Kyu tried leaving without paying her. But in reality, he was just trying to avoid physical contact with her. Taken aback, Min Kyu immediately calls the professor and demands to know what's going on. Fortunately, the latter makes up a story that Agi-3 has two modes: operational and friend mode. Operational mode is where she acts professional, while in friend mode, she acts more like a human. The robot is now in friend mode, but it can be changed to operational mode by pressing the reset button. The naive Min Kyu immediately believes it and presses the button behind the robot's neck to reboot. After Jia returns to normal, Min Kyu decides to conduct an intelligence test on her. Just then, the lab power gets cut off, resulting in Jia losing total connection to the Agi-3 system. Now, she has to rely on herself, but her IQ is only 94. At first, Jia is asked to unlock a box, whose password can only be found by solving a complex calculus, that too within 3 minutes. Obviously, she doesn't know calculus, so she simply breaks the box open, which takes Min Kyu by surprise. Then, she is asked to peel an egg without using tools within 10 seconds. Having worked in restaurants previously, she easily completes the task. Min Kyu is really impressed, so he praises the robot for being smart and creative. Jia, who has never been praised for being smart, gently smiles. Meanwhile, the lab electricity also gets back on. But when they connect to Jia's lenses, they are shocked to see her yelling at Min Kyu. She accuses him of being a pervert. It turns out Jia is outraged to find him staring at her chest, which he notes is bigger than it was the day before. He wants to open her up to check the battery pack, and extends his hand to her chest. The professor drops to his knees in horror, and is barely able to answer when Min Kyu phones. "Who are you trying to deceive right now?" Min Kyu demands. But they're relieved when he actually only accuses them of using cheap batteries, making Agi-3's chest swell up. Hong stutters for a while and lies that he simply upgraded Agi-3's battery pack. He also warns Min Kyu to not touch her chest. After hanging up, Min Kyu proceeds to have his medicine, but he suddenly chokes. He drops on the floor and starts to convulse, but fortunately, Jaya helps him by patting his back. As Minkayu comes back to his senses, he stares at the robot with astonishment. When he inquires why she helped him without any orders, Jaya replies that she can do many things. After this, the two have physical contact for the first time, but surprisingly, Minkayu does not experience any allergic reaction. Finally, at the end of the day, Jaya is brought back to the lab. Professor Hong scolds her because she was almost exposed. But Jaya is annoyed because she believes that she did a good job. Frustrated that she never gets appreciated, she storms out of the place. Soon, the professor receives unpleasant news that the special part they'd ordered for AGI 3 seconds repair was mistakenly sent to Africa and it is now at least weeks away. To make matters worse, Minkayu also calls him at that exact moment and reveals his desires to take AGI 3 for a month. He wants to deep learn the robot and make it fully functional according to his needs. Left with no options, the professor calls Jaya again and requests her to disguise as the robot for some weeks. This time, he praises her and offers an even larger sum, because of which she agrees right away. Then, Professor Hong explains that from now onwards, until the real AGI 3 gets repaired, Jaya will have to work at the mansion and every night she will be returned to the lab for recharging. Unfortunately, the very next day at work, Jaya experiences an explosive diarrhea. She tries to hold it in but accidentally farts. Confused, Minkayu asks what's that sound, to which the robot replies, "You fart, my master." Soon, the smell spreads around the house, so she suggests he change clothes. The gullible Minkayu believes her since there's no one else except them, so he leaves. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Jaya rushes to the toilet to poop. However, Minkayu returns early and finds that the robot is missing. He looks for her around the house and eventually finds her spraying his expensive perfume in the toilet. Jaya pretends to be cleaning the toilet, but Minkayu doesn't believe her, claiming that robots cannot touch water. However, she lies that she is an advanced AI who is adept at washing dishes. When Minkayu is about to leave, he finds that Jaya's face is sweaty. He tries to approach her, but accidentally steps on a soap and slips. Jaya rushes to Minkayu, but instead of saving him, she catches the perfume instead. Sadly, she lands right on top of him, hurting his ribs because of her iron plate. That evening, when Jaya is cleaning, she accidentally knocks down the card castle that Minkayu has compiled for 15 years. Seeing this event unfold, Minkayu screams in agony. But before he can say anything more, Jaya says that her battery has reached 5% and pretends to be in standby mode. He later meets the professor saying that he's frustrated with her mistakes, but the professor tells him to give her more time to deep learn. Minkayu agrees to give AGI 3 more time. The next day, Minkayu lights up to see a visitor and warns Jaya not to come outside. It is Rael, his first love. However, his excitement soon turns to horror when Rael touches his shoulder. Minkayu keeps his face averted and manages to hide his spreading rash from Rael. He then pretends to have an important meeting and rushes back to the house. Somehow, he staggers to his off-limits room and reaches for the antidote syringe. But since he is too weak, he fails to grab them. By the time Jaya finds him, Minkayu has collapsed on the floor, struggling to breathe. Just then, the scene flashes back to when everything was normal for Minkayu. Back to the times when he didn't have an allergy to human touch. Little Minkayu's parents cheer him on as he builds his very first house of cards. When it topples down, Dad chases away his disappointment with some cool card tricks. In another memory, everyone gathers for Minkayu's birthday party. On the drive home, the entire family plays word games. But unfortunately, as Dad rolls down his window, one of the birthday balloons gets in his face and their car gets caught in the path of an oncoming truck. Minkayu next wakes up in hospital, sobbing for his parents, both of whom were killed in the crash. During the day, several relatives visit him and try to be his legal guardian. The main motive is to inherit his parents' money. But when Minkayu enters the bathroom and checks his pockets, he finds a mysterious message which reads, "Don't sign anything." Later that day, a friend of his named Yu-chul approaches him and hands him an adoption paper. Yu-chul mentions that his father sent him, and that it would be great if Minkayu could be his brother. Minkayu thinks for a while and eventually signs the adoption papers. Thrilled, Yu-chul grips his friend's hand to give him support. But when Minkayu looks down, he notices Yu-chul's hand turning into monstrous claws. Terrified, Minkayu runs away, screaming, while strange blisters start forming on his hands where Yu-chul touched him. After a while, Yu-chul returns to his father and hands him over the adoption papers, saying that the task has been completed. But when the father goes through the last page, he sees "son of a bitch" written in place of Minkayu's signature. With this, he realizes that the kid simply wants to be left alone. Elsewhere, little Minkayu returns to his dark, empty mansion. And from that day onwards, he lives away from other humans. Feeling betrayed by everyone, he starts despising other humans, hence resulting in the allergy. To make matters worse, as he grows up, no one knows about his allergy except his personal doctor. Back in the present, Min-kyu jolts awake with Jia beside him. He tells her that he was dreaming of people stabbing him in the back. However, he's surprised to find that he's in totally normal condition, with not even a mark on him. Hence, he squishes Jaya's cheeks, seemingly grateful that she gave him the injection. As their relationship deepens, Jaya and Min-kyu spend more time together and get even closer. One day, Min-kyu asks her to accompany him on a date with Rael. The date doesn't go too well, and as Rael stands to leave, she suggests that they shake hands as friends. Reluctantly, Min-kyu takes her hand, which results in his allergy kicking in. Soon, he starts having labored breathing, and by the time he grabs his syringe, he is caught in two minds whether to use it or not, as he is tired of his miserable life. Just then, his smartwatch starts beeping faster, and he eventually drops the syringe. Fortunately, Jaya arrives and brings him to his senses. She sits next to him, and when Min-kyu looks at her, his reaction lessens and the monitor returns to normal. It appears as if he has completely recovered, even without the syringe. Shortly after, the two decide to return back to the apartment, but when they are turning a corner, Min-kyu accidentally collides with a gardener and falls down. The latter immediately grabs Min-kyu to check if he is alright, but surprisingly, the allergies don't kick in. Seeing this, he tries to test himself by joining large crowds, something he has never done in 15 years. Later, as the two venture out, a child bumps Min-kyu's hand, but again, nothing happens. Then, the two join a crowd to watch an outdoor performance where Min-kyu jumps when the person next to him grabs his hand for the wave. A check of his monitor shows that all is well. As a result, Min-kyu's eyes fill with tears and he softly says, "I'm finally cured." Following this, he walks to a quiet spot and calls his personal doctor, Dr. O. But when he is tearfully confessing that his allergy is gone, a passerby bumps into him, causing his monitor to beep voraciously. Meanwhile, Jaya starts looking for Min-kyu, and when the two meet, the latter's pulse slows down and his rashes start to disappear. Min-kyu looks at her in amazement, and when a couple blocks his view, his symptoms return. When Dr. O asks if there's anyone nearby, Min-kyu admits, "Someone is here. When I see someone, the rashes go away, and when I don't see someone, the rashes come back." However, as Jaya smiles and waves, Min-kyu tearfully admits, "It's not a person." After hanging up the call, Min-kyu embraces Jaya and tells her, "It was because you were by my side." He promises to buy the world's longest-lasting batteries for her, and even goes on to say, "Stay with me forever, until I die. You're now my most precious treasure." As Jaya stares in disbelief, the nearby crowd starts cheering for the two, prompting Min-kyu to kiss her on the forehead. Back home, Min-kyu insists to Dr. O that even though he had contact with many people, he's perfectly fine. He then stands in front of his full-length mirrors while he holds up his phone to verify his claim. Dr. O is amazed that for the first time in several years, Min-kyu hasn't required medication after human contact. He clarifies that it was because of the robot that's been with Min-kyu for the past 10 days and calls it a miracle. Then, he tells Min-kyu to list everything that happened since the robot appeared so that they can figure out how he was cured. Over the course of the next few days, several experiments are conducted. All of them point out that Min-kyu will be fine with humans as long as the robot Jaya is with him. Hence, he takes her with him whenever he wants to meet someone and considers her as the most valuable asset he owns. In the meantime, the AG-3 robot is finally repaired. It can function normally, but will require some time to adapt and make the transition smooth. Professor Hong claims that he will need some more days before AG-3 deep learns and gets ready. Jaya, who has started getting used to her new life, is sad about the news. One day, Min-kyu takes Jaya to a fancy restaurant, but makes her sit alone at a separate table. Then, he warmly receives Rael and her father. As the three interact, a clearly upset Jaya looks on. After a while, when Min-kyu comes to collect her, she ignores his hand and leaves on her own. This goes on for a while. Min-kyu is safe only when Jia is around, but one day, everything changes. When he is alone, Min-kyu pulls into a gas station and opens his trunk where credit cards and cash are at the ready. When the attendant returns his card, he brushes against Min-kyu's fingers, but the latter is too distracted to notice and simply drives away. However, just after a few minutes, he realizes that he touched the attendant's hand and checks himself for a rash. Surprisingly, Min-kyu finds nothing, and his monitor also shows that he's normal, even though he's alone. So, he arranges a meeting with his personal doctor. On reaching the hospital, Min-kyu hugs a speechless Dr. O and thanks him for his hard work for the last 15 years, indicating that he has finally been cured completely. After he calms down, the doctor inquires if something made him happy, and Min-kyu answers that he finally understands love. As expected, Dr. O assumes that Min-kyu is talking about Rael, so he suggests that he also thank AG-3. Then, he tells Min-kyu that he can send AG-3 away now, explaining that Min-kyu became attached to the robot because she was his first friend in 15 years. But now that he's cured completely, he can get more happiness from an attachment to a human. Minkayu protests that AG3 made him happy, but Dr. O calls it an illusion. He wants Minkayu to experience the touch of someone he truly loves. That evening, a depressed Minkayu approaches Professor Hong and reveals that he is in love with the robot AG3. Hong finds it understandable that Minkayu has become obsessed with the first friend he made in 15 years, the one who is also responsible for his cure. Minkayu then confides that AG3 makes him feel alive, but Professor Wang reminds him that they're talking about a robot, which was pre-programmed. Hearing this, Minkayu admits that he is going crazy, and with teary eyes, he begs the professor for a solution. The following day, Wang comes to Minkayu and tells him that there's one way. He proposes that they reset AG3, as this way, she will forget everything and help him move on. Minkayu is devastated, but he knows that this is the only way. Later that day, Jaya also hears the news. Heartbroken, she dresses up as AG3 for one last time. The next time we see her, she stands in front of Minkayu in his house as snow falls outside. He takes her for a walk for one last time and returns to the mansion. They finally face each other, and Minkayu tells her that the things he showed her today are parts of the everyday life she gave back to him after 15 years. Minkayu then thanks her for being so many things to him, including his friend and his cure, and apologizes again. Gia struggles to hold back her tears as she expresses how thankful and sorry she is too. She only hopes that he can be happy in the coming days. Minkayu stares at her, and as a tear falls, he manages to calmly order AG3 into operation mode. After this, he announces that he's about to reset her, prompting Jaya to remind him that all of their memories will be permanently deleted. Despite this, Minkayu agrees to proceed. But before he can press the button, he takes out his mother's necklace and places it around Jaya's neck. He then embraces her and hits the button before inputting his final message, "I love you." As Gia starts the countdown to the reset, Minkayu succumbs to his tears and holds her tightly. Once she reaches 1, she finally lets a tear fall. Back in the lab, the real AG3 reports that Minkayu's folder has been deleted. That night, Minkayu and Gia cry themselves to sleep in their respective homes. Gia cries so much that she falls ill the following morning. She's taken to the hospital due to severe dehydration, and there we see that she is still wearing Minkayu's necklace. As they move on with their lives, Gia moves to her hometown with her grandma, while Minkayu prepares for his wedding with Rael. One day, Minkayu gets on the train, where he runs into a familiar face. She is none other than Jaya, who Minkayu believes is his ex-robot. However, despite the two sitting next to each other, they don't utter a word. Jaya is under strict orders to not react with him, while Minkayu is skeptical if she's really a robot or not. Wasting no time, Minkayu calls Professor Wang to ask how he came up with Agi 3 Seconds' face. Wang reveals that he made the robot on someone he knew, which resembles her face, personality, habits, and so on. Minkayu wonders if it is possible to interact with her, and Wang says yes. However, he asserts that it would be best if he doesn't talk so that things don't get awkward between the two. Despite the advice, Minkayu follows her all the way to her grandma's shop and offers to chat with her. However, she uses the excuse that she is currently busy. But being the stubborn man that he is, Minkayu is determined to wait for her. Meanwhile, Gia hurries into the kitchen and takes off the necklace around her neck and hides it in a plate. Hours pass by, but Minkayu still hasn't left. So, Jaya is compelled to interact with him. She admits that she took Dr. Hong's money 4 years ago to become a character model, but that's about it. Minkayu tries to ask more, but Jaya warns him to go away or else she will call the police. However, Minkayu cleverly asks her grandma if she has an available room. And to Jaya's horror, the old lady says yes and lets him stay for the night. For the next few days, he bonds with Grandma, which also catches Gia's attention, reminding her time with him. One evening, Grandma asks Gia to pick up goods from a warehouse. But since it's already dark, she asks Minkayu to accompany her. Reluctantly, Jaya drives him to the place. During the journey, they look at each other's faces and remember the past. Soon, Jaya starts opening up, and they chat all the way until they reach the warehouse. But as they are picking up the required goods, unfortunately, someone locks the door, unaware that 2 people are still inside. Left with no choice, the couple is forced to spend the night inside, where they start bonding even more. The next day, someone finally unlocks the warehouse door and notices the couple asleep next to each other. After waking up, they return to Grandma's store and help her with cooking. At one point, Minkayu almost spots the necklace, but before that, Jaya again hides it. The next day, Minkayu again arrives at the restaurant, but learns that Jaya has already left. Sad, he looks for her everywhere, until he finds her by the pier. Seeing him, Jaya quickly covers her necklace, but it's too late because of this. Minkayu starts reminiscing about the last day when he was with Agi 3. Realizing that he was scammed, he becomes enraged. But just before he can say anything, his allergy reappears, and the indicator shows red, something which has never happened before. In the final scene, he falls to the ground in despair, with very little chances of survival. Do like and subscribe our channel. Have a nice day ahead.